welcome to the lunch edition of MBC News, and you are with me, Evelis Chingambe. Stories making the headlines. The governments of Malawi and Iceland sign a 23 billion kwacha financial pact to improve basic services in 3 districts. Government orders buyers not to purchase tobacco at prices below the cost of production. And the second phase of the nationwide polio vaccination campaign ends today. Thank you for joining us. Now the news in detail. 3 district councils of Salima, Balaga and Machinga will benefit from a newly signed pact between the government of Malawi and the government of Iceland. The 23 billion kwacha financial agreement will support the improvement of basic services in 3 district councils. The Minister of Finance, Joseph Mwanamveka, and Minister of Local Government, Ben Piri, signed the agreement in Lilongwe on behalf of the Malawi government. Austin Fugula reports.
The Minister of Finance, Joseph Mwanamveka, commended the government of Iceland for scaling up the basic services program for the 2 to 5 districts, saying this will improve access to social services such as health, education and clean water.
It's a signal that there is a good relationship between the government of Iceland and Malawi, and also it shows that they have confidence in the leadership of Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika. Obviously, we work closely with the government of Iceland. I know they have the capacity. They have already demonstrated that capacity to do more. I'm sure we'll be engaging them so that they can give us more resources.
Minister of Local Government, Ben Piri, assured the Icelandic government that his ministry will ensure effective implementation of the $12.9 million grant, equivalent to 23 billion kwacha, so that people in rural areas benefit fully.
In any sort of grant, accountability, transparency, efficiency and effectiveness has got to be deployed. We have done that, and I must be quick to mention that the local government of yesterday is not the local government of today. We had challenges, we learned from the challenges that we had yesterday, and we build from there to make sure that we don't let Malawians down.
The Iceland head of mission in Malawi, David Bayanason, said the program is performance-based, hence councils need to implement their work in a transparent and accountable manner.
We expect to see huge improvements in basic services delivery in the districts. We expect to see good performance in the implementation of the program, that we work together very hand in hand to deliver those services and to solve any challenges that may come. But in the end, it's about delivering, it's an expectation of service delivery on the ground, which will improve education, health, access to water and environmental aspects.
The scaling up of the basic services program between the governments of Malawi and Iceland follows the successful implementation of the initiative in Mangochi and Nkhotakota districts. Austin Fugula, MBC News, Lilongwe.
The construction of the Tuchila Bridge at Nkando in Mulanje is expected to be completed before December this year. The Minister of Transport, Jabi Muhango, made those remarks during an inspection of the construction works on the bridge currently underway. Mercy Zamawa with the details.
Muhango acknowledged that the construction of the bridge faced delays due to heavy rains and the shortage of forex. He said Malawi has been going through economic challenges which the government is still working to resolve. He, however, added that the contractor currently working on the project has now been given about 5 billion kwacha to allow the work to continue.
People of Mulanje and surrounding districts have got every reason to complain. They are justified because the project has indeed delayed, but there have been factors that have contributed to the delay. We are coming from a very, very different background where the economy has been failing. the economy has not been performing. And so it has also been very difficult for government to meet its obligations, that is to pay our contractors on time. But now that we seem to be overcoming these problems, we've started paying contractors so much so that the contractor who is working on this two-tier bridge has now been paid. He has already sourced some of the materials, obviously still having some problems with to access Forex. As a ministry, we'll take it up with the Reserve Bank to make sure that the contractor is prioritized as Forex is being allocated, to make sure that he completes this bridge by December, because that is now the cut-off point.
Meanwhile, the Director of Maintenance at the Roads Authority, Engineer Flora Hauya, said the project cost has been revised upwards to 8.9 billion kwacha from 7.7 billion kwacha due to the depreciation of the Malawi kwacha.
The progress is there. As you've seen, almost 3 spans are ready for doing the deck. What we are remaining with is the pier and the last abutment, which we are supposed to finish.
Speaking on the matter, Member of Parliament for Mulanje Pasani, Mariam Ajidu, said the damage of the bridge disrupted the movement of people and agricultural produce, as the bridge is located near a marketplace where people buy and sell goods.
It has been very challenging, as you can see the damages that are here. And you know, our people, they're using Kando Road to sell their farm produce. So they usually use this road, and they can't cross because of the damages that were caused here because of Cyclone Freddy. So this development, it will help my people a lot.
Mike Construction Limited is the company carrying out the construction works of the bridge. Merce Zamawa, MBC News, Mulanje.
The country has of late been experiencing an increase in street-connected children, with most of them associated with criminal activities. However, some of these children are striving to reverse this trend in their quest for survival, as our reporter Lonjeson Sodoga reports.
By Chisomo Children's Club in 2015 revealed that over 4,000 children were living on the streets, and 88% of these children had parents but could not provide proper care to them. The report further revealed that family breakdown and poverty are among the major factors pushing children into the streets. As a result, they are exposed to numerous challenges, including lack of food, shelter, education, as well as sexual exploitation. Frank Nkwanda left Kasungu at the age of 16 for Lilongwe, where he survived through pieceworks at the Lilongwe bus depot. He could pose as a passenger boarding a bus, helping the bus to fill quickly. With that cash, he paid for his own school fees until he was recognized by One Step Foundation and was taken to a rehabilitation center. Eventually, Frank scored 17 points in MSCE and now in third year at Luana, studying education science. His story testifies that determination and support can transform the lives of street-connected children.
I never realized that one day I'll be a student at Luana. I've just been noticing some meetings by officials from the rehabilitation center discussing about me, because I was just determined to go to school.
Luce Semani, now 19 years old and a mother of 2, found herself living on the streets at the age of 6 following the separation of her parents. She told this reporter that after the breakup, she had no one to depend on. From that moment, she started to beg for survival. According to Luce, life on the streets has exposed her to abuse. Luce says she is now all grown and ashamed to beg, rather sells bananas for a living, with the streets still being her home. She is appealing to the government and well-wishers for financial support to help her start a proper business so she can build a better future for herself and her children.
Being on the streets has exposed me to many forms of abuse, such as being forced into situations against my will. Sometimes I get arrested and sometimes I have no food. I would like to start a business like selling second-hand clothes or any other business so that I can support myself and my children. I don't want my children to go through what I have experienced.
According to Executive Director for One Step Foundation, Moses Malabu, the organization has been actively rescuing children from the streets since 2020, reuniting some with their families and enrolling others in rehabilitation centers where they access education and gain technical skills. He said that since the launch of the initiative in 2020, a total of 67 street-connected children have been enrolled in public universities.
Street life is not street environment. It's not a good place for somebody to cherish that they have been in the street. And for myself, I used to say that I've been into the street because I know it's a way of motivating others, because I can no longer find myself into the street because I've changed. I'm a graduate and I went to school.
Commenting on the development, Minister of Gender, Children, Disability and Social Welfare, Mary Navicha, expressed a government commitment to supporting street-connected children across the country by ensuring they receive proper support and care.
We are also integrating these kids because some of them have parents, but some of them are child-headed families. So those that have parents, we are going to integrate them so that they will stay with their parents and will support the parents. We have a number of programs like social cash transfer. So the parents will be on social cash transfer so that they will be able to take care of their children.
The stories of Lucy and Frank are just part of many that highlight the urgent need for collaboration in promoting the welfare of street-connected children in the country. Their stories show that when partners work together, they can help rebuild many lives of many street-connected children in the country, transform their future for the better, and make the streets safer for the citizens. Lonjeson Sodoka, MBC News, Lilongwe.
You're watching MBC News and you are with me, Evelis Chingambe. A reminder of our top stories. The governments of Malawi and Iceland sign a 23 billion kwacha financial pact to improve basic services in 3 districts. Government orders buyers not to purchase tobacco at prices below the cost of production. And the second phase of the nationwide polio vaccination campaign ends today. Welcome back. Minister of Agriculture Rose Mbelizi has ordered that no licensed buyers should purchase tobacco at a price below the cost of production. The minister made the call when she held talks with a number of tobacco purchasing companies over high rejection of auction tobacco since the onset of the market this year. Now, our business reporter Erlene Chimoyo has been following the issue and she joins us live in the studio. Welcome, Erlene.
Thank you, Evelis.
Yes, so apart from the issue of price, what are some of the issues that actually emerged during the discussions that we understand are underway?
Well, the key issue has been an issue to do with supply. It's the supply that seems to be a problem. We seem to have overproduced this year. We know that it might be that the amount, the volumes that we have produced as a country this year and last year, this year they might be lower, but if we are to compare with the demand that is there this year, we still have overproduced. So that's one of the key issues that still came out from the discussions yesterday. And the discussions, as we spoke to the officials from the Tobacco Commission, they're continuing. So a resolution is yet to be made on this particular matter, and I spoke earlier to Forrest Achigwenembe, who is the spokesperson for the Tobacco Commission, who had this to say.
They also cited overproduction globally to say their customers have several alternatives, several options, several sources of tobacco. Therefore, they are afraid, the buying companies in Malawi, they are afraid that they may have stocks that they may not be able to sell to their customers. They also indicated that international customers have not placed their orders, so they are not very sure. At the moment, they are not very sure as to how much tobacco the international customers will be looking for. Finally, they argued that Malawi tobacco right now is too expensive, is more expensive than in other countries. So international customers have decided to go to other countries where they feel that the tobacco there is much cheaper than in Malawi. So they explained these reasons to the minister, and this morning the engagement continued between the minister on one hand and Tobacco Commission and grower associations on the other. So all the issues that are being discussed during these engagements will inform decision making by authorities, and as Tobacco Commission we do expect that these issues will be resolved. The restrictions on auction tobacco will be a thing of the past.
Now, Erlin, talking about tobacco trading companies, how many companies are actually participating in this tobacco marketing season?
Well, this year we have a total of 8 tobacco buying companies that have been licensed to purchase tobacco this year, and it seems all of them were represented during the talks with the minister yesterday. And we tried to reach out to some of them earlier. They say, well, let's give it some time that we get back to you as the day progresses, because the talks are continuing. And if we're to look at the issue of the rejection there as well, it's quite big this year, because you're talking of rates as high as sometimes 100%, sometimes 98%, that if it's 97, 90, 98%, if it's on the lower side, you're talking of, for example, if you give an amount of, say, 100 bells and you have only 3 bells sold, that is just something that is quite concerning. And that's why the minister had to come in to say, you know, we need to get to address this issue, because these farmers have grown this tobacco, they brought it to the market, they're expecting to sell it. Some of them even took loans, they need to start paying back. So that's why the minister is continuing to engage the buyers to find a way forward. And like Terraforest just said earlier, that the minister earlier this morning also engaged the growers to have a very good picture over the issue on how best they can find a solution to the problem. So the issue of rejection is just alarming, because even if we were to look at the earnings, we're in week 2. As of close of business on the 27th, the country had only managed to get a total of $6.552 million from the sale of tobacco, from just over 3 million kilograms of the leaf, which, if we're to compare to the same period last year, it's different. So that's why government is really pushing to find a way out. They need to find a solution. That's what they're doing, and they've given that assurance that they'll try as much as possible to ensure that at the end of the day, a solution is found, that the farmers should be able to sell their tobacco, the buyers should be able to buy the tobacco that they want to buy without straining their budgets as well. At the same time, there should be a balance strike between the two.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure you keep us updated, as we understand that the talks are ongoing. So I'm sure you update us. Thank you so much for coming in today. Thank you. So that's Erlin Chimoyo, our business reporter here at Embassy, giving us an update on the 2026 tobacco marketing season. And now moving on to our next story, the second phase of the nationwide polio vaccination campaign ends today with a call to parents to ensure that their children are vaccinated. Blantyre City Mayor Isaac Jomo Osman made the call during an inspection exercise of the campaign around the city of Blantyre. Ruth Chinangwa reports.
The city fathers said the initiative is part of the broader push to ensure that every eligible child is reached during the ongoing vaccination campaign. He also presented gifts to children who voluntarily received the vaccine at Ndirande LESQ and in the Matope area.
I know it's not started from Jomo. Even the president, some ministers, they are also on this project. I think I will not sleep well, we want Branta to be safe for our kids. We also know that in Branta we are experiencing cholera. So we have a lot to do. We need to also to tell people about the cleanliness. So we have started to do so. It's not going to end in these 3 days. We will continue to tell people how important it is to meet people in health centers and ask them how they can avoid these diseases.
Speaking at the end of the visit at Mbayani Primary School, Chief Preventive Health Officer at Blantyre District Health Office, Innocent Mvula, said about 60% of the targeted 438,642 children had been vaccinated within the first 2 days of the campaign.
When we compare with the first 2 rounds, I can say this campaign, the second round, is going on very well. All this is being attributed to the fact that we worked on the problems that we faced in the round 0 and round 1. Our daily target is to reach at least 25% of the 437,000 children under 10 that we are targeting. So I can say by the end of the 2 days, the first 2 days, we have reached over 60% of the children that we are targeting.
The vaccination exercise, which began on 27th of April, is expected to conclude on Thursday, 30th of April 2026. Ruth Chinangwa, MBC News, Blantyre.
Still on issues of health, it has emerged that Queen Elizabeth Central Hospital has gone for nearly 2 years without offering family planning methods, a situation which health authorities have attributed to the pulling out of donors in the reproductive health sector. Now, joining us live to expand more on the issue is our reporter, Temba Mali. Welcome, Temba.
Well, thank you very much, Everest.
My first question is, we know Queen Elizabeth Hospital to be a referral facility. Yes. Why should it be concerned with matters of family planning?
Well, you're correct that Queen Elizabeth Central Hospital is a referral facility. But according to Dr. Dingase Kumwenda, issues of contraceptives, they're not only for family planning. Sometimes family contraceptives are used in extreme cases, for example, where a woman is bleeding excessively and they can't stop it using whatever means. So the only option becomes these pills, the contraceptive pills. And beyond that, you agree with me that Blantyre does not have a district hospital. So it's still the mentality of people that the accessible facility which they have, in this case, is Queen Elizabeth Central Hospital. So women still walk in and then they will ask for family planning at Queen Elizabeth Central Hospital. And this has been happening over time. They still go there to seek for family planning methods.
Now, talking about some issues that actually force women to seek such methods, what did the authorities have to say on issues about unplanned pregnancies as well as abortions?
Okay, so according to Dr. Kumwenda, there is a huge nexus or agreement between the absence of family planning methods as well as the cases of post-abortal care, which they see each month. Post-abortal care, we're talking about a woman who has aborted, either induced or unintended, but then that pregnancy has been terminated. So these go to Queen Elizabeth Central Hospital, especially complicated cases where someone was trying to induce an abortion and then a lower level facility cannot handle that. Then the alternative is, this is a complicated issue, let's go to the referral hospital. So Dr. Kumwenda says roughly in a month, they handle about 180 cases.
That's a lot.
180, that's a lot. And if you talk over a year, then it's close to 2,200 cases. And as we hear from Dr. Kumwenda, this is worrying.
Separated because if you've had unintended pregnancy, sometimes if you're not ready, people do react differently to an unintended pregnancy. So it's possible that other complications. We're having huge numbers of complications of abortions because we do not have family planning services. So if we're not able to provide these services, highly likely that they could come back with another intended pregnancy because fertility usually returns quicker after an abortion.
Temba, we have heard from the doctor, but what's the way forward?
Now, as a matter of way forward, this is according to some health experts, in this case, Professor Adamson Mula, as well as Mphatso Nguluwe, who is from the CCP Synod of Livingstonia, the health department. They suggest that, number one, possibly we need a mindset change where we educate the people to say a referral hospital is not for primary healthcare service. In this case, let them go to district hospitals and health centers. And looking beyond, Mphatso Nguluwe suggests that maybe as a nation, let's start budgeting for these things. We shouldn't be dependent on the donor support, but then as a country, we should be self-sustaining on family planning issues.
Thank you so much for joining us. We would love to have you for a longer period, but I think you should join us again next time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So that is Temba Mwale, our reporter here at MBC. And well, that item also concludes this edition of MBC News. A recap of our top stories before we leave. The governments of Malawi and Iceland sign a 23 billion kwacha financial pact to improve basic services in 3 districts. Government orders buyers not to purchase tobacco at prices below the cost of production. And the second phase of the nationwide polio vaccination campaign ends today. For more updates, visit MBC Digital on Facebook, Instagram, and X. You've been with me, Evelyn Chingambe. Thanks for watching and good afternoon.
Ndikulandeni ku program ya MBC Exclusive ndipo sabata ino tikucheza ndi engineer William Liabunya, mkulu wa bungwe la Ejenko. Muli ndine Kumbukani Phiri. Liabunya, tikulandeni ku program ya MBC Exclusive.
Zikomo kwambiri.
Choyamba kodi ku Ejenko kuli bwanji?
Ku Ejenko kuli bwino. Titha kunena kuti panopo tikukhazikika kuti zinthu zili bwino. Chifukwa tikayang'ana mbuyo mu myezi 3 inayi yapitayi, December uja tinayi tikuyang'ana mbuyo kuti pali mashine ena amene akhala chaka chathunthu ali owonongeka, koma December anabwerera pakati pa panakhala mavuto a mvula, kubweretsa michenga, kubweretsa zinyalala.